Absolutely.
So I think the theme for the podcast today is who's a coward and who's not. So cowards are people who are backing down from the hero's position that Matas Buzelis sucks ass. So we're going to be going through the comments one by one. I'm going to have everyone declare themselves. If you've been fooled by Buzelis having being good at Summer League and think that he's good now, go ahead. Now's your chance. You can stab me in the back.
Yeah.
Yep. You can stab me in the back. But just know you won't be allowed back on. This is your last chance to ride to glory with me on the Matas Buzelis sucks.
Everyone knows why Sam really hates Matas Buzelis, but we can't really say it. I'll just come out and say it. Sam was a huge fan of the G League Ignite. And that team being so bad just absolutely sunk the G League Ignite. It doesn't even exist anymore. That team was so bad, they said, you know what, let's do away with the whole thing. And Matas Buzelis is largely culpable for what has happened to the G League Ignite. And Sam, I understand. I mean, it was just such a high level of competitive basketball, such a good developmental context for so many NBA players like, Marjon Beauchamp, Dyson Daniels, just a long lineage of great NBA players coming from G League Ignite.
Do you have any idea how much liquid capital I poured into my G League Ignite throwback jersey collection, hoping to flip them all? I was like, holy fuck, this Beauchamp jersey is going to be going nuts when the Bucks are back in the finals.
Although maybe they go up in value. I mean, I know College Football 25 just came out, but for a while, College Football 2014, that was like a rare item because it was the last one that was ever made, and everyone wanted to play the last game. So a bad week for Denard Robinson, I would say. He's not been in the news in quite some time, but he was on the cover of College Football 2014. So maybe your G League Ignite, memorabilia will go up in time, and over time, people are going to be shelling out the big bucks to get an Isaiah Todd throwback jersey.
Yes. Yeah, honestly, they just need to roll it into the NBA, the NCAA one, and they need to introduce they have in the football one, where you can kind of go to parties. There could be an event where your dad texts you and is like, "I'm going to ruin your life, so I can prove that I can get my dog shit son drafted by an NBA team." I know you're having a great time at USC. This is awesome. I want
just a random thing that you've made up off the top of your head.
Yeah. Just it's something that wouldn't happen.
University of South Carolina, of course, you meant.
You're right. Yeah. If somebody made you flame out in front of a national audience where everyone hates you because you're a Nepo child and nobody wants to defend you, and Jalen Brown is sitting courtside with women telling them you suck ass. Just nightmare stress dreams. There should be an event like that. That's difficult mode extreme.
To navigate. Yeah,
that's a gold trophy if you can clear my career mode on that difficulty. So,
bit aside, I actually do feel really bad for Bronny.
I really do.
It's so bad because one, he didn't ask for this. Two, he's at the center of this media frenzy right now, and everyone's trashing him when, look, he shouldn't have been drafted. But also he was one of the last picks of the draft. Who cares?
Yeah.
He probably shouldn't have got a full contract. He probably should be on a two-way. But it's Bronny's just going through the advice of his father and his agent, Rich Paul, LeBron's friend, who told him to end up in this situation, and now it's just constant the backlash from all of these accounts and ESPN and all that shit, and it's such an insane thing to hate him for getting a fully guaranteed contract too. It's that's $6 million. Yeah,
Bronny is worth $100 million. His dad is a fucking billionaire.
Yeah,
he's going to inherit hundreds of millions of dollars. The money is beside the point.
Roster spot is the thing that I think that people other players could have a legitimate gripe about that.
Yeah, sure.
He shouldn't have a roster spot.
It's not Bronny's fucking fault.
No, but it's
do that.
Exactly.
He wants to be at USC It's got to be so good to be an NCAA athlete who's rich at USC. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
He could be doing that for 4 years. Like, that would be the most fun in the world. And instead, he's got a fucking room with Dalton Connect at the Caesar Grand Hotel. Fucking roll out of bed, miss 12 shots a game, and then get yelled at for, like, Twitter is, like, impossible.
Yeah, it really
he's
does.
Microdosing being Dasha. It's crazy.
I've always said Bronny James is the Dasha of basketball. So
we can't be we can't be mean to poor Bronny. It would be funny if Charlie XCX wrote a song about him on Brat, though.
Yeah, I would listen to that, definitely. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Bronny Boy Summer.
Yes,
so let's get into what's been happening in Summer League. I had to see for myself because we have to, obviously the Bronny situation is its own thing. But speaking of nepotism, the younger brother of Oliver Sarr has been struggling to start Summer League. I'm
mad at myself. I'm mad at myself for bringing him back up the board. I should have stuck to my guns.
You know what's really funny about this?
Yeah.
I said to you all cycle I was very high on him.
Yeah.
And then at the last second, I dropped him down like 4 spots on my board.
Yeah.
Right before the draft, as you were rising him up your board.
Yeah.
Because of the defensive potential and everything that I really talked about throughout most of the cycle. His switchability, his versatility, if the shot comes around, just an all-around really good player, two-way guy. And the more I watched him, the more I was really scared about what his offensive role will look like in the NBA. And that's proven out at Summer League. Okay, hold on. We have to... President Biden just tested positive for COVID. Let's go. Shams did not break the news this time, by the way. Is he gonna die?
Sorry. Oh my god.
He's so old, dude.
It's the Trump getting COVID part 2. Like, this is oh my god, dude.
I rarely ever stop the podcast for a comment in the stream chat.
Yeah.
But Biden getting COVID while we're talking here feels like it needs to be addressed. Is he gonna die? I don't know.
This is a flash at it. This could be history we're watching.
We
might be watching Kamala rise.
Have you ever seen the tweet that's like, I went to a fortune teller and all of the cards were just a man who looks like me in a hot air balloon flying into power lines.
Is this good? Yeah.
Is this good? That's been the last few weeks for the Biden campaign.
Yes. It's
going well. Everything's good.
And yet, I think the Trump campaign has had a worse week. You'd think they would have locked up the election with the assassination attempt, and yet here we are. He picked JD Vance as his running mate, which is like the biggest unforced error of all time.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the Sixers are going to lose their president of basketball operations.
Yeah, that's no good. I mean, he did a great job this summer, though. I'm glad to see Donnie.
Yeah, he went out on top. Yeah.
Bringing him in. Daryl in the Trump administration is like very funny to like think about, where he's like re-signing Grenada on like a veterans minimum to like boost their GDP so he can like flip it later for like French Angola at some point. Like, he would be awesome.
He's winning on the margins.
Yes, real State Department shit.
Yeah.
Like, he would have been an awesome CIA ghoul in like the 60s, to be totally honest. Like, instead of drinking, I guess he drinks like soda instead of like alcohol though. So
it's a little different. The 60s, yes, definitely not now. Anyway,
Alex Sarr.
Anyway, free hunk. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know. I mean, I've seen Summer League mean less than nothing so many times. I think being bad in Summer League is usually a better indicator of where someone's at than being good is. Like, I feel like a lot of people are very good in Summer League and it means nothing. Sometimes I'd say it's like 50-50 if someone's bad in summer league that it actually means something. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to totally say Sarr is out of here, but like, or he might be a bust like already, like based off this summer league stuff. But I do think that Wizards team is a bad fit for him. Like he needs structure. I wanted him to go to the Hawks. I would have liked his fit on the Hawks a lot more because that kind of forces him to be a role player. And I think he can't be he went to the Wizards where there's not a lot of talent on that team, and he can kind of convince himself that he needs to be like a showcase. He's got the DeAndre Ayton disease where it's like I'm a let me cook, and he can't cook. Like absolutely not. Like the kitchen is on fire.
Yeah.
This is the Bear season 3. He's not allowed in the kitchen right now. Like he's not a chef. Yeah.
My thing with Sarr is when I watch him, he's like a new kind of player in that it hasn't really existed until like the last, probably, I guess, like going back to like that DeAndre and post, is that like we're not used to 7-foot guys who like want to be shooting guards.
Yeah.
Like he plays like he's a 2. And, he's shooting they have a 3-on-1 break in the game the other day. He shoots a pull-up 3. A lot of, honestly, if you watch some of the game where he went 0 for 15, the shots look good. Like the shot looks good. It just never goes in. Like his form is pure. It rims out a ton. There were like 4 or 5 shots in that game where it just rimmed out. And he got to the line a few times and missed all of his free throws. I think he shot 4 free throws in the game and missed all of them. And look, like I said, I'm not gonna totally overreact. I know this is the overreactions to summer league episode. I'm not gonna call a guy a bust just based on this, but if you look at it on the whole, and part of the reason why I started to drop him down my board a little bit, there is compiling evidence that his offense is going to be a struggle, and it might never get there, is my thing. If he can't shoot, it's gonna get ugly fast, because we both talked about him wanting to go to the Hawks for him, but he doesn't do the things that the Hawks would want him to do. Like he doesn't set good screens. He's not going to roll to the basket and play inside. He's horrible at finishing around the rim. He is he's very awkward when he's going up for a shot, and he was getting rejected by Klingon over and over in that game. He can't finish over smaller guys sometimes as well. Like the thing that concerns me the most about him is the fact that, like, even if he were put in a better context, I'm not sure it would be great for his game. He just has to be able to shoot, is my thing. And like, I think the shot will eventually get there, but the idea of what I had of him as an offensive player, like he's a pretty good passer. He's a pretty good driver, got a good handle for his size, has good passing ability for his size, but everything that when you watch him is like, it's only impressive because he's 7 foot and doing it. It's not like they're these plus skills. So I'm definitely worried about the offense, and I don't know. Look, is Washington a bad context for him? Probably. I don't know if there is, like, I don't think going to the Hawks would have helped him at all, because he's not going to set screens and roll to the basket for Trey in a way that I wanted him to do. Like, he's not like a crazy vertical athlete. He has the tools to do all these things, but he's just not the player that I think that he probably needs to be in order to be an effective 5 in the NBA offensively. And if he's not a 5, he's a 4, and he needs to be able to shoot if he's a 4. Because if he can't shoot, then it's like he might be DOA. Defensively, he's still like, he was a beast in that game. He's been great defensively all in summer league. I think all of his game just comes down to like, what does the shot look like? Can he put on size and strength? And if once he does put on size and strength, does that make it so that all of the worries and concerns we have about his touch inside gets better from there?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like exactly like honestly, it's exactly what we said, to be honest. I don't want to toot our own horn, but like, this is pretty much exactly what we said.
I honestly, of all the guys on my board that I had high, I think if I had sat with this process for another month, I probably would have dropped him down further. But because I had him so high to begin with, like I had him 1 or 2 for most of the cycle, that by the time we got to the draft, I had him 4 on my board. And I'm concerned is all I'll say. The good news for the Wizards, Bub is him and has been absolutely balling out at Summer League. And that was something that he was probably the most stamped. Him and Edie were the most stamped YKB guys outside of the top of the draft.
Yes.
So I ended up with Bub at 7 on my board by the time we got to the draft, and he has looked like I had him at 8. He has looked like one of the thing that you see when you watch him is he plays with like such control for an 18-year-old. He's still 18. Like he turns 19 soon, but like he's still 18, younger. He played in a game with both of the top draft picks, Richiche and Sarr, and was clearly better than both of them.
Yeah.
And is younger than both of them too.
Yes.
And I know his archetype of guy tends to shine at Summer League in terms of like the hooper types, but they're usually not 18 years old. Yes. And also on top of that, they're usually not I wouldn't say he's hyper efficient. He's just efficient for a lead guard in Summer League.
Yes.
In a way that, like, if you look at the other guys that were drafted at the top of this draft outside of Reed Sheppard, Rob Dillingham, Jared McCain, all these guys, he is miles ahead of them in terms of efficiency. His playmaking looks great. And honestly, I kind of can see the comps that Polar Fall made on Twitter earlier today, which is that he's kind of got a little bit of D-Lo to his game, which I actually think could be seen as a compliment for a guy who went with the 14th pick in the draft. And I think that, I think he has a very safe floor and a very high ceiling.
Yeah. He's so young. And that's what I always liked about what I like about Bub is he does all the guard things well. He has that plus shot making. You know what I'm saying? Like I can see him. I buy him reasonably as a creator. You know what I'm saying? In an offense in the NBA. And that's like a pretty high floor to get to. A lot of times we talk about guys like not being creators, and it's like, well, yeah, like, 400 players in the NBA aren't creators, really.
Right.
Like, they're just guys that are there to like fill other roles. So Bub being like a genuine creator, and he's going to get a real chance on this Wizards roster. He's going to have a chance to supplant Jordan Poole. I think at some point I think they're going to start those guys together probably when the season starts.
Let's go. Oh my God.
Which would be awesome.
It's going to be so funny.
Yeah. With Jonas Valanciunas, like Sarr.
Dude, can we talk about how gross the spacing on that team is going to be, though?
God damn.
Sarr, who can't shoot right now, but I do think he'll get to a level where he's like an average shooter. But right now, he's probably going to shoot in the 20s as a rookie.
Yeah.
Jonas Valanciunas, who, as Zach Lowe loves to bring up, like takes like 7 seconds to load up his 3-point shot, rarely ever takes them. And then on top of that, you'll probably have Bilal, who's like a fine shooter, but also a developing one.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Poole and Bub, who are just going to put up like 100 shots in any given game.
Corey Kispert, you are our only hope. Let's go. Kispert gang, rise up.
Yeah, we're going to need your shooting off the bench. Well, actually, I would imagine Kuzma starts over Bilal to start the season.
Oh, for sure.
And then
actually, I bet he starts over Sarr, honestly.
I think Sarr will start. I think they invested a lot in Bub and Sarr. And I think that they're going to start both of them to start the season. I think that's the reason why they went and they got Valanciunas, so Sarr can play the 4.
Yeah, I guess that maybe that's true.
I honestly...
so Kuzma comes up, or I guess they play the Kuzma at the 3? God, that fucking sucks too. That's so bad. That spacing is so bad. Yeah. Isn't he a worse shooter than Bilal? I feel like Bilal's okay.
Kuzma has a reputation of being a better shooter than he is.
Yeah.
Like he shoots like 33%. Yeah, 33, 34. He puts up a ton of shots. Like he'll put up like 7 threes in a game, but he doesn't make them all that often. So,
yeah, Kuzma's a career 33.7% 3-point shooter. So that's tough.
Honestly, the positive thing, if you're a Wizards fan, you got 2 darts, as Chuck would like to say, in Bub and Sarr. You have Bilal growing into who he can be. And then you have the fact that like this team has in a relative amount of talent for a bad team in the NBA. Kispert, Kuzma, all those guys, Valanciunas.
That's like a normal team in the NBA like 7 years ago.
This team,
the talent is crazy now.
This team would be an 8 seed in 2015. Like,
yes.
Like with Brogdon off the bench. Like,
yeah,
we talked about the Blazers. Zach Lowe did a thing on this in his podcast today too, where he ran down like all the players on the Blazers, and he was like, they just have like a lot of guys. Like, and then I was like, that's like every team in the league now, though. Like, I go across these rosters, and I'm like, it's just mind-blowing how much talent there is right now, and how well set up a team like Washington is. Even if obviously if Sarr is a miss, they're not very well set up. But to have Sarr and Bub in the pipeline along with Bilal, and then you add in the fact that like you have a few guys that you could showcase here. Like Kuzma will be a hot name at the deadline, and once you get rid of him, you clear up the logjam. Brogdon on an expiring might have some value to some good teams, and you're going to constantly be able to replenish the pick haul or the prospect haul as you go throughout this rebuild, while still having like a good amount of young talent. So I think you're just going to get a ton of chances, and then next year you're going to be bad again. And from there, then you have a chance to draft at the top of this really good draft. So I actually think, despite a lot of my concerns about Sarr, I think Washington's actually in a better position than they were, when they had Bradley Beal and they were going through that,
sure.
Whatever. They're now in a position where like they could just keep taking chances until they finally find a franchise player and try to build around this core. And I think they're going to be fun next year.
They're with the Nets. They're going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the league next year.
Yeah.
Like I'd put hard money on that they'd be like the Pistons are kind of the wild card when it comes to being bad, because I always think the Pistons are, well, maybe this is the year where they're good, and then they're just bad.
Let's talk about Ron, because I feel horrible about Ron getting drafted to the Pistons, to be honest. I think
it's like the worst place he could have gone.
It's such a bad fit for Ron. It's such a bad fit for the Pistons. Watching his shot still has, and I do just want to say, I think some of these guys, like, I think we're going to see more and more. We've talked about this a lot in the Discord. We're going to see more and more these young raw guys like Ron, Sarr, Matas, all these guys get drafted to teams where they're not expected to be good as rookies. They might play in the G League a little bit. They might come off the bench. The expectations will be lower for these guys that are drafted because of this talent boom, right? Like, there's just not enough minutes to go around for all of the talent in the NBA right now. And if that's the case, then these young guys are probably going to be the ones that get squeezed in rotations. And as we're looking at them in Summer League, I'm watching Ron and I'm like, the shot still has a long way to go. Like he went 1 for 3 in the last game I watched, but like some of the misses are just he's not a good shooter yet. And I don't know if he ever will be, but they were running plays for him like he was a big Ron. And I'm like, if you're running plays for him, like from like the elbow in and like getting him into like advantageous positions based on, entry passes and like cuts and shit, how is this going to work on the Pistons, who already have a Sarr, who already have Duren, who have Cade who is like is a better 3-point shooter than his reputation, or a worse 3-point shooter than his reputation. Ivy is like a shaky 3-point shooter. Like, adding Malik Beasley will help, but that's all he'll do. Tim Hardaway Jr. will take a lot of shots. He'll also command the ball a lot. And Tobias Harris is not as willing of a 3-point shooter as people think, and also likes to occupy those same spaces. They're going to be a disaster again. Like, there's just no way around that happening. And I do feel like I can chalk up a lot of Summer League, a lot of a guy's rookie year to be like, whatever. Like, Jarris Walker didn't play last year, and I feel totally fine about him. Like, he's looked awesome in Summer League. He looked good in the G League. He had some opportunities last year, and he looked good. I'm not worried about him at all. But some of these guys getting drafted to, like, the position that they're in, unless Fred Vincent is literally fixing all of these guys' shots at once, then I don't see a way that this is going to how they function as an NBA team. Like if their expectations are to win 30 games next year, they're going to be very disappointed. They're going to win like 22 games again.
This is the Biden getting COVID of NBA situations for Ron Holland. It just could be. I just that's the other thing that's so crazy. The Sarr thing is really baffling to me, like really baffling to me, because they're pretty similar players. Like they're not. It's not a 1-to-1, but like these are both hyper athlete, wing, forward, defender guys who have struggled with the shot. Sarr, I had less questions about Sarr's shot coming out than I did about Ron's, and Sarr still struggled pretty heavily. Like
shot like 17% from three.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt like he was more of a shooter coming out. Like I know people were like not worried, but he was
like, low volume. He shot like in the 30s at OTE. Yeah.
Yeah.
He showed something. He showed a little bit of shooting touch.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I just don't get that pick at all. I'm going to be totally honest. Like I really don't get that pick just because you can't develop everything you just said. Like where are you going to develop him? Like in your rotation, you're going to need to start cutting bait on some of these guys. And you just signed Cade to a giant fucking extension. You have no idea. They shouldn't have done that. I get why you don't, like, it's like a bad look to do that, but like they should have traded Cade like this offseason because you're not ready. Even if Cade is as good as you think he is, you're not ready. You're never going to like be ready, and you can't put a good team around this squad, and you need the developmental minutes to like figure out who's good and who's not.
Well, that's the thing is I think Ron's just going to be in the G League again next year because I just don't see a way that if they want to be like a relatively normal NBA team, which I think that's their goal, right? That's why they brought in Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley and like all these guys just to have like some veteran competence, right? And if that is the case, they're going to have to squeeze some of their young guys. Like it's just inevitable. I think Ron goes down to the G League and plays there a lot next year. I think you're going to see Sarr, Duren, and Ivy are probably under the microscope this upcoming season to see, can Sarr's shot get better? Can Ivy and Cade actually function as a backcourt? And can Duren, be the guy that we thought he was going to be coming out? Because right now, as I've said, like I think they really only have one clear starter level player, and that's Cade, even with his flaws. And I'm just kind of to the point where I hope for their sake, like that they like overperform and they randomly win 30 games. But I'm having a hard time seeing them having a functioning NBA team when they keep making these decisions. And Chuck's talked about this for a while. He's like, Chuck is not against the idea of drafting best player available, but best player available when you're in year 4 of a rebuild and you have one good player. Like, I know that is still the right thing to do, but like, if you want to have any sort of functioning NBA team, an NBA offense, you can't draft a non-shooter every single year. And the last guy that they took that was like even a semblance of a shooter was Cade. And he's even underperformed that in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like he has not even been like the 3-point shooter that people expected him to be.
Bad shooting is also a compounding thing. Like bad shooters shoot worse when you get a bunch of them together because the spacing is bad. Like you need someone needs to be good for you to do that. And what they got like one or two, Malik Beasley is there now. They got like one. Wasn't there one other guy they got?
Malik is a high volume. Tim Hardaway Jr. is also a high volume shooter. So those are the two guys that they took.
Fontecchio. I forgot about
Fontecchio. They got at the deadline last year. Yeah, he'll take some shots. And then honestly, I think you're going to see I would imagine a lot of their offenses run through Cade, and Tobias is going to be getting a lot of post ups.
That's so gross, dude.
I mean, you don't sign Tobias and not be like, you're going to get 17. He's going to get shots. Like he's going to average his 17 points a game. And he's going to not do it within the flow of the offense like he always does. And once again, it's just they're at least starting to add some competence around them with like Fontecchio, say what you will about Tobias, but like I don't think he's a good fit for a developing team like the Pistons seem to think he is. But for what the Pistons had before, I'm sure he is a relative talent upgrade. A team that really didn't have many starter level guys. And I don't even know if Tobias is anymore. I think he's more of a bench guy at this point of his career. But long story short here, I just need to see either Fred Vincent work some miracles and make all of these guys into competent shooters, or I need to see them make a move where they consolidate some of their young guys and go get either draft picks or veteran talent to kind of, because I think at this point, you're going to have to pick between them. You've already extended Cade. Ivy and Duren are going to be up for extensions a year from now. And those are the guys that you're looking at going into this next season. So anyway, so
the Pistons, it just bums me out every time we talk about the Pistons. It feels like I can't.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Trajan Langdon is just doing temporary moves so that they can still be bad and take more swings. But like, look, I like Ron. I had Ron 3 on my board. Like, I think Ron's going to be a good NBA player. I just think that the context could not be worse for either side, and I'm just starting to feel like it's another thing where I come out of the draft being like, man, I really like the Pistons pick, and then it just never works. Like I've done that the last 4 drafts. I'm like, man, the Pistons did really good, and they never do.
The Killian Hayes pick was the beginning of the end for that. I was like, they got the best player in the draft at 7. Woo! Things are looking up in Detroit.
Nothing could ever go wrong.
Oh, yeah, and that is the end of this bad chapter of Pistons history.
I think Zach said if they're terrible again this year, which we all expect them to be, this will be their 7th straight year that they've just been horrible.
They made the playoffs. Did they make the playoffs once with like the Andre Drummond? Oh, the Blake Griffin team. That's right.
Well, there was the Blake Griffin team, and he played through an injury, and they got crushed by the Bucks in round 1.
Yeah.
And then the Tobias Harris, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson team from like almost a decade ago at this point. Maybe it might have been a decade ago. That team also got swept in the first round. So they haven't won a playoff game since 2008. Like it's not like the Kings where they missed the playoffs for like 15, 20 straight years, however many the Kings missed the playoffs for. But it has got to the point where they haven't won a playoff game since I was in high school. I'm 34. It's unbelievable work. So hopefully things start to look up there. But anyway, so just a few more thoughts on Summer League here. Rob Dillingham. I love Rob. I dropped him down my board because I had concerns about the size. I dropped him to like 15 before the draft. He looks very small. And the defense and the self-creation, I'm a little worried about that for sure. We'll see. It's gonna take him a while. Any kind
small
of
guards, especially
small guards that are on ball.
Yeah.
They're never going to be good as rookies unless they're like legitimately future superstars.
Yeah.
But Rob looks small. I'm not even going to like read into the efficiency stuff because I went through, if you go through the efficiency for all of the players in Summer League, Bub and Reed are the only 2 guys right now from this class that are efficient as smaller, and Bub's not even small, but like thinner guards that are like leadish creators. The majority of them have been all incredibly inefficient. But I mean, of the Kentucky guys, like I think we were cooking with Reed. Like I think Reed goes right now. Like obviously there's going to be a ton of things that change with the draft class, but in a weird class like this, I think if there was a redraft being held tonight, that Reed Sheppard would be the first pick in the draft, even with the Atlanta Hawks fit being weird.
We weren't on that early. Well, I feel like that was like, I feel like it was December.
Yeah.
When I was like, am I crazy for thinking Reed Sheppard is the best player in this draft? Like,
yeah,
it's.
I mean, historically good shooter, really smart player. great in transition, like improving playmaker. And the Kentucky thing where like even with his like lower usage, high production that he had in college, there's always another level for these Kentucky guys to go to when they get to the next level. And Will's putting this out in the comments. Did you know that this was a Nets draft pick?
Yes.
Okay, so now I just want to build the starting five. Okay, ready?
Let's
I think
go.
I did this on Chuck's podcast last night. Reed Sheppard, point guard. Or we could go Damian Lillard, point guard. Damian Lillard was a Nets pick. Gerald Wallace trade. One of the worst trades of all time. Reed Sheppard, shooting guard. Jalen Brown, small forward. Jason Tatum, power forward. And Draymond Green, center. I mean, if Reed is the guy we think he is, 5 future Hall of Famers, all with Nets draft picks in the last 12 years. I'm so happy that they are now at a point where they can actually do a rebuild and hopefully get some of this own luck for themselves, because that is just brutal to have gone through what has happened over the past 12 or 13 years for them in the draft. But back to the Reed thing, I think Reed would go number 1 in a redraft if we're held tonight. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about throughout the whole cycle. What do you have to be the best player in a draft class? You have to have an elite skill. Reed is instantly one of the 10 to 15 best shooters in the NBA from day one. And on top of that is very functional on defense, his hands are so fucking good on defense. Like sometimes guys get by him pretty easily, and like he's not the quickest to react, and he doesn't have, you know, all of the lateral mobility that you would want from like a lockdown defender, but just like he generally can keep guys in front of him. Has really good hands, is great with anticipation. I just think he's just like he's an untraditional top pick in a draft because of his size and just you know, he's a white boy with a bowl cut.
Yep.
A white American with a bowl cut on top of that, named Reed. But
I got nervous at the draft. I'm going to be honest. Zero drip, zero swag.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was alarming. I thought, oh no,
yes,
Reed a bust. And unfortunately, you don't need to have swag anymore. The Democrats killed it with woke. So
no more. You don't have to have swag at all. You can.
Yeah.
We're in a new era where you can actually be a swagless white boy and be the best player in a draft. So far, you know, obviously early returns, but Reed looks like that guy.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to say this when he had like multiple games where he shot like 70% from the field, but he also did that in college. Like it's adding up. Adding up that like he just doesn't miss. Like there's a larger sample here that he has you know, a trend that is continuing into summer league. So Reed's that guy, and I totally agree with what Nate's saying in the comments. The Rob thing, while it was a risk, Terrence Shannon Jr. being a plug-and-play day one NBA player, like he's shown in Summer League, where he's just so explosive off the ball, a pretty good corner shooter, and just like a defensive beast. He's 24 years old. He's going to be in their playoff rotation next year. Like he'll be off it's the thing about Minnesota that's really interesting to me, beyond the Rob risk that they took with obviously going and sending out those far out picks for the Rob pick to San Antonio. The fact that they are now going to have a defensive wing rotation of Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be fucking hell for teams in the West next year. Like they are just going to be swarming, and they've played that way in Summer League. Like they foul a ton because they're just super aggressive, but like they apply a ton of ball pressure, and you can do that when you have Rudy Gobert on the back line. So like I'm really looking forward to seeing what they look like next year. I think that they're going to be once again just one of the most fun teams to watch in the NBA. Even more athleticism, even more skill just added to that team with Terrence Shannon Jr. And then maybe Rob can slowly come along, and hopefully by the end of the season, he'll look a little bit better than he has in Summer League. The passing and the playmaking is legit. The shooting and the scoring, it's gonna be a process, and the defense is brutal. Well, I mean,
part of the reason I like the Wolves as a fit for him is because I don't see him as. It's going to be hard for Rob to be a starter in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I think as a spark plug off the bench for a team that has all the defensive versatility, like Rob could struggle, but then once he gets to the NBA team, he's one of these guys that might be made better with context, because all of a sudden, instead of, I don't know who the Wolves
Well,
Summer
actually, their team's kind of a boat, dude. They kind of
Really?
got a boat of guys. I would say they got Daisha Nix, who's like a summer league legend. He was a high school recruit. I think it was the 2021 draft, 2022 draft, if I remember correctly. They have Leonard Miller, who crushed the G League the last 2 years, and actually he kind of didn't do great in his first 2 games, but he played awesome last night. And then they have Terrence Shannon Jr., who's, I think, he's been one of the best players in summer. He's shooting 60% from the field in summer league. And so they have some guys, but I guess my thing with them is like, I want to see because the difference between Rob and traditional, like, 6 men the role that he would potentially be in if he were to play for them next year is that Rob's really good off the ball too. It's not just Reed. Like Rob ran a ton of actions where they were getting him going, so he didn't have to create all of his own offense. Like they would run him off pin downs. He's constantly moving off of the ball. Like he is not your traditional Jordan Clarkson run a ton of pick and roll and kind of just hoop and, score in isolation kind of guy. Like he is also willing to play off of the ball. And I think on a team like the Wolves, that's necessary. He has to do that.
Yeah. And I guess, man, I don't know. We can move on. We can move on. I don't want to like pile on Rob. I feel like I'm going to say negative things if we like stay on the Rob thing. So let's keep going because I want to believe in Rob. I want to believe.
Okay. So just real quick, before we get into, I want to do a little draft here. Remember pre-draft, I said, let's see who the best players who were drafted outside of the top 10. And we'll do our own version of that draft. But just real quick, my thoughts on the Sixers Summer League guys so far. Jared McCain, 1, very good at basketball. 2, very small. It's unfortunate that I just don't think that he is equipped to be a lead creator in Summer League. I think that he's a guy that isn't nearly athletic or explosive enough to be on the ball a ton. He likes to play with pace. I think the comp that a lot of people have had for him so far is like a smaller Malcolm Brogdon. And at his age, with his lack of tools and athleticism, it's been tough for him scoring, creating his own offense. And it is a little bit concerning for sure. Off of the ball, awesome. When they get him going to his spots, looks great. The shot, it doesn't always go in. He's only shooting in the 20s from 3. He's also shooting like horribly from 2, which is the thing I'm a little bit more concerned about. But great instincts, really good shooter, underrated passer, and the defense and rebounding has been good. Like he's plays bigger than his size. He's smart. He knows where to be. I think he's going to eventually be a rotation guard. I don't think it's going to be this year, unfortunately, which I was hoping that, I was just hoping that you would get a guy that you could play pretty early, but the guys that are, the ones that could play pretty early are the guys that went just after the Sixers range. Like, I guess Dalton Knecht was the next pick. A few picks later, Tristan Da Silva, Terrence Shannon Jr. in the 20s. Like most of the guys that the Sixers were still going young because they were going for more upside. And McCain also started very slow at Duke, picked his way up throughout the draft, but he's a very smart player. He's definitely talented. I just think he's going to struggle with NBA athleticism and size, at least originally, and I'm hoping that he can eventually get to the point where he can kind of get better with that over time, because it's been mixed results so far, and the rough moments and games are very low, but he had a nice bounce back game last night. He looked good. But just that's my general thoughts on him. Bona is literally a Paul Reed variant. He is literally like
took the Skyrim sliders and moved the
He's like, okay, what if you took like Paul's like has a little bit of dribble juice and like likes to cook, but then you just put it all in vertical athleticism and explosion. Like he is, I will be calling him B-ball Bona. He is a monster protecting the rim. He's very mobile for a big man. He's he's kind of, a lot of people have made comps to him as like a Bismack Biyombo type, I could see, which is good because I think the Sixers have just needed that kind of level of athleticism and explosion. He fouls a ton, just like Paul Reed. A lot of young bigs do. He's probably going to foul out of multiple summer league games. And he also tends to have a few bonehead moves, as I've been calling them on the stream. But I think that he has potential to be a pretty good backup in the NBA. Like just a spot minute guy for a team that is really lacking in anyone when Joel goes to the bench that can protect the rim, get rebounds, catch lobs, all of the things that the Sixers have always been lacking for them when Joel's and Justin Edwards. It was a nice run. I hate to give up on a Philly guy already. I don't see it with him in the NBA. He's so far away. He's not that guy. Like he's just kind of good at a few things and not very good at. I just don't see him as an NBA player. We'll see. He'll get a chance as a two-way. I would prefer to give that two-way to either Aluma, Keve Aluma, who's been awesome for the summer league team, or Judah Mintz, who's had some nice moments. Also, David Jones hasn't really done anything for them either, who's a two-way guy. But anyway, now we're at the segment that I want to do, which is the best players drafted outside of the top 10. And there's one section of this draft that is kind of insane if you pull up the draft, and I think you're going to immediately notice the section I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I want to give you the first pick, and I think I know who you're going to select. So the concept for this is, hold on, before.
Okay.
The concept of this is who could be the best player, because if you look back historically at the drafts that people deem bad drafts, 2011, 2013, 2015, the majority of the best players in those drafts go from the 11th pick to the 35th to 40th pick. Usually it's like 11 to 30. Like 2011, I think like literally 3 future Hall of Famers were selected in that range: Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, and Kawhi Leonard. So who would you say would be the best player drafted outside of the top 10 in this draft that has potential to be the best? Now, there are guys I like that were drafted outside of the top 10, like some of the guys I've already mentioned, but I don't think any of them have a chance to be the best player in this draft. Like, I think that they might be the 7th best player, the 8th best player. But I think that the guys that I want to talk about are guys that we think could be like legitimately in 5 years from now, we're like, man, how did that guy fall to 12?
Yeah. And I think there's a pretty clear one that I'm going to be selecting. This guy is, a cooking shooting guard. He's a guy who is really good off the bounce, in creation, went to a team that desperately needed his talents. I'm going to be selecting Jacoby Walter with the Toronto Raptors, who's awesome. Now, I'm taking Bub, obviously. So
okay, so you're not taking Topic.
I'm not taking Topic because, Topic isn't. We don't know. Like,
okay. I kind of had built in.
Bub looks better than I thought Bub was going to look. So
here's the thing.
I might have had him low. I had him 6, and I think I had him low.
I had him 8. And the fact that he's so young still is really the thing that is keeping me like, man, this is exactly what we wanted to see from him in Summer League. And the fact that he's doing it already, even if he has a bad rookie year, I'm going to kind of chalk that up to like young guard, bad context.
Every guard does.
Yeah.
Especially on a bad team.
Year 2 and 3 is where I'm really looking for him.
Yeah.
So there are a handful of guys that I could pick from here. I'm not going to pick the guys that we haven't seen so far. Okay. So like, I would pick Devin Carter here. Like if it was just 1 for 1, like we could take the guy we think has the potential to be one of the best players, if not the best player in this class. But I'm not going to take him or Topic right now. I see the comments telling me to take Matas, and I have him on the list. But I'm going to take Khalil Ware from
okay, all right,
Miami Heat, because I had Khalil 10 on my board, and the reason why I had him a little bit lower is because all of the questions kind of around like his motor, whether he really gives a shit, all of the questions about like how he was not good his freshman year, didn't really get a ton of opportunities, and then he performed really well in his second year at Indiana after he transferred. But I think it was more based on athleticism and tools, because the moments where he flashed, like his touch was really good for a big man on those little turnarounds and fadeaways that he would hit a lot in college. He had great touch around the basket. He was a really good lob catcher. And defensively, he just racked up a ton of stocks. Really, he kind of was everywhere. My floor for him was like Christian Wood with better defense. And I think that the ceiling for him is like, I'll just steal SH's comp from the Discord, which is a Miles Turner, Jared Allen hybrid. Like, he is
player
in terms of having shooting touch, in terms of being a lob catcher, and just a dynamic defense. I still think his defensive awareness is like not fully there, and because it's summer league, he's gonna look incredible because of the fact that he is able to just dominate smaller, less athletic players that he's going to face in the NBA. But good for him. He went to a situation that is absolutely fucking perfect. Miami has a ton of young guys that Spoelstra will play from day one. Bam is going to be if Ware
as Will says,
if Ware could shoot, or Bam, who's been shooting in FIBA and made 3 threes today, if one of those guys can shoot, it's going to be really great for the other's game in terms of what they could do offensively. And then defensively, that team's just going to be a fucking pain in the ass to score against on the back line. So I think Ware has a shot to be one of the best players in this class, if not the best player in this class.
Well, wasn't the reason Ware kind of slid was because that people had like character concerns about like work ethic and stuff like that? Like,
yeah, and he went to Miami. So
like that's the thing. Like,
we'll know very early if that's real or not, because he either won't play or SPO, or they'll just get rid of him. Like, that's like the one thing they don't stand for. So like, I think the fact that they drafted him showed that that's probably not going to be that big of a deal.
That said, Hassan Whiteside did.
True, he did get a max contract.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
And honestly, maybe he falls into just the massive, skilled, talented kind of player that is in that mold of the Christian Wood, Hassan Whiteside mold. But so far, from what he's shown, he's 20 years old still. I think he's got a ton of potential. Really, really good player. And he's been absolutely dominant in summer league so far. So I feel really good about having him in my top 10.
Yeah, I had him. I probably had him too low. I had him 18, and I liked him, but just like I felt like kind of the bigs were a little bit of a crapshoot this year, and it was kind of going to be situation dependent. And I think he, like you said, he ended up in the perfect
context for him. Yep,
perfect context. Yeah.
So, who would you select next out of the non-top 10 guys that could be potentially the best players in this draft?
So this is like superstar kind of like,
or just like all-star, I would say.
All-star.
Because like, look, it's possible that this draft just doesn't have a superstar.
Yeah.
It's possible it just has a bunch of guys who are good second and third options. And that's why I selected Khalil Ware where I did. Because I don't envision him ever being like the best player on a team, but could he be the second best player on a good team? Third best player on a good team? Yeah, sure. And in a weaker draft, that's fine to get that as one of the top guys.
I'll select. Well, but you didn't pick Carter, so I was gonna take Topic here, but like,
take Topic.
Yeah, I don't. We have no new information. I just that's speaking of a good situation. Yeah, exactly. So it's a good situation. I still think he's, having seen Bub and Edie and some of these other guys, like I still really like Topic's like ceiling and everything else. So we'll see when he's healed up. But I still really like Topic. I think they got away with a steal getting him at 12. So
this is the range I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
because I'll take Matas Buzelis with the next pick. Here's a guy in Matas Buzelis who I was much lower on. You were much lower on. You had him like 28 on your board. I had him like 21 on my board.
I had him 27, actually.
27.
So,
Okay, I had him 21.
Just ahead of Ryan Dunn.
I had him one pick behind Terrence Shannon Jr., who I was a little bit higher on than people. I had him just at pick 20.
Yeah.
So I think with Buzelis, the thing that I might have undersold, and the thing that when we had Maxwell on, he talked a little bit about why he liked him. To be 6'10" and to just be able to create your own shot and to be able to drive and to be able to score fairly efficiently at 6'10" is just a massive advantage. Your margin for error is so wide compared to a lot of the guys that I liked more in this draft. Whether they're like a small guard or like a big who has no creation ability at all, your margin for error is just so massive because the league is always looking for big, talented guys who can handle the ball, I know he can't really shoot or pass right now, but like in time, you would hope because the handle is like pretty good for a guy his size, that as he continues to grow as a scorer and as he continues to grow on the ball, that all of those other things will kind of fall into place for him. I think he has shown in Summer League what I wanted him to show in the G League. I just didn't think that he was consistent enough to anytime I watch. I felt like he disappeared a lot. I felt like all of the things about his game, the handle, the shot, they were all overrated just based on whatever his high school profile was when he was playing against actual pros. But so far in Summer League, like the handle looks great. The creation ability has been awesome. And the only things that he needs to work on are like that passing playmaking thing that I think it takes a while for these guys that are raw type dudes, and just putting on strength so that he can finish around the basket and not get bullied, really, just because he's probably going to be a 4 in the NBA, I would imagine. And he needs, if he's going to be, on the interior a lot, he's probably going to struggle early in his career, is my guess. I think he's going to have a rough rookie season because they're going to throw him into the fire in Chicago. And I think that it's going to look ugly sometimes. And it's kind of looked ugly sometimes in Summer League too. Like he plays like kind of like a giraffe on skates sometimes. Like he's very like clumsy, but the flashes that he has in his game are very impressive for a guy his age with his tools. And the only thing that I think that I'm really concerned about is what Chuck brought up, which is he only has 1 assist in all of Summer League, despite being on the ball all the time. So that's got to get much better. Like that's unworkable for a guy that's going to have the ball as much as he will on a team like Chicago, who is probably going to want to grow him on the ball at the next level. But yeah, Buzelis is like, of everyone, the 2 guys that have impressed me the most are Buzelis and then the guy that I'll take next if I come back around on my pick here. So Buzelis, I think, has a chance to be one of the best players in this draft if he continues on that trajectory.
Okay. I think he's probably going to struggle his rookie year, like you said. He's probably going to struggle his sophomore year. He's probably going to struggle his 3rd year. He's probably going to struggle his 4th year. He's probably going to struggle his 1st year in Greece. He's probably going to struggle with Maccabi Tel Aviv. I think he'll be pretty good. Yeah, I think he'll be pretty good for the Guangdong Tigers, though. So,
okay.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, don't back down.
Well, I'm applying the Chet rules to him, where I don't know if you remember this about Chet, where I was like, no, I don't buy it. And then I saw Chet on one NBA game, and I was like, no, I was wrong. He's good.
Hold on. Someone found a tweet of yours because I was very famously pro Chet. You had not joined the podcast full time at the time.
No.
I was famously pro Chet. And someone said, was Sam pro Chet? And they found a tweet of yours from the night of the draft where you said, I think you said, I'm in on Chet now. I hope he succeeds or something along those lines.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So you pivoted
lying
literally right before the draft. So history shows in your tweets that
that's a lie. I was not in on Chet. I'd love to take credit. I was not in on Chet. I was out on Chet. I I was very anti-Chet in the draft. I liked Jabari, which was bad. That's bad. Like I was kind of. I think I did end up with Paolo at 1, but I really thought about Jabari at 1, which is that was bad. That was bad. But I think Chet. But I guess to Buzelis' credit, here's the thing: is I guys like that are these big, unwieldy guys that have like there's some weird stuff going on with them. I want to see Buzelis like dropping the bit about Buzelis sucking. Because he could be good. Like he really could be. Like I don't know. I don't like betting on guys who can't play center and need to and like probably can't shoot is tough. But he could be fine if he works into this, and we'll know once we see him on an NBA court. Like that's the thing. It's like we're doing a lot of prognosticating about summer league. This is all kind of fugazi. It's kind of hard.
It's not real basketball. And honestly, Mateo said this in the Discord too, where he was like, the G League guys were prepped for summer league because it's just not real basketball. Like it's anarchy essentially. Like it's all just literally check rock. Like there's no formation. There's honestly the team that I think has played with the most structure that I've watched is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They lost to the Sixers last night, but they're the only team that like they lock in on defense in a way that summer league teams usually do. And also the Miami Heat, of course, they have a fucking
jeez. The trains will run on time.
Yeah, no, the Heat summer league team is so funny to me because it's like all guys that look like they have been in the league for like 5 years, and you're like, how is this? You guys literally just met 2 weeks ago. Like, how are you already playing with such good chemistry and just functioning so well together? And by the way, I think they did it again with Kashad Johnson. That was Chuck's guy before the draft. Undrafted free agent, hyper athletic, can get buckets, really good defender. Like, he's probably going to be an NBA player, and they got him undrafted. So, Caleb Martin replacement, come on down. They've pretty much already figured that out because that's kind of what the role that he'll be fitting into. But yeah. So, all right. I will take next. I'm not going to take Devin Carter just for the purpose of everyone knows I was incredibly high on Devin Carter, and I don't really have much else to say about him because he hasn't played in Summer League. He would have been my first pick if we were doing this a lot. I think he would have fucking balled out in Summer League. I think he's perfect for Summer League. A little bit older, but not too old. Super athletic, really good on both ends of the court. Like, I think he would have been awesome. Yeah. I'm going to take Isaiah Collier with my next pick. He was a guy that I was lower on than draft Twitter, higher on than the NBA because he went 27?
27, yeah.
27. By the way, that trade is just going to be brutal for the Raptors to trade away the pick that became Collier. They also passed on Collier for Jacoby Walter, who I'm obviously not as high on. Maybe he'll be good. I don't know.
He will be.
He sucked in Summer League, by the way.
He had a great second game. His second game was good.
I don't even know. I just saw the percentages. I literally haven't watched him at all.
I'm watching very intently. Jacoby film.
But he
was terrible in the first game.
Yeah, I saw he had a rough first game. Yeah. But I did catch a little bit of that one because Grady Dick was good in that game, and I had some nice things to say about him. But I had Isaiah Collier 19 on my board. A lot of guys in draft Twitter had him top 10. Some even had him like top 5 in this draft. Jacoby went 2 of 10 and 0 for 6 from 3 today, by the way, Sam.
That's good.
Tough game.
That's good.
So I had him 19, which is higher than where he went, but I was always split on him. And as you know, I fade guards who can't shoot. I don't like it, but the shot has looked good. Like in Utah Summer League, it looked good. In Vegas Summer League, it's looked pretty good. The playmaking is legit. He's shown some stuff on defense, and he is probably an NBA player. And that's honestly still really young, was incredibly high recruit coming out a year ago. Might have just been a weird year. I think the Collier vindicators, or the truthers on Collier might have been cooking when they said USC was a horrible context, and that the shot and the touch will come along with time. And that's all he needs for everything to fall into place. So at a minimum, I think he's going to be just like a solid all around guard, and he might have some more upside. So like, yeah, I mean, the guy who was the number 1 recruit in this class that kind of had a weird college year, but still had levels of production and has been good in summer league. It's a good bet to make that he could be one of the best players in this class. So we'll go Isaiah Collier there. I know on draft night, people are probably confused because on draft night, I wanted us to draft him. I just liked his fit with the Sixers. If he could become what he could become, I think the Jazz is going to be a great context for him to grow. Like, I think that they don't have enough young talent to really like land on one guy. And I think everyone's going to get an opportunity there this upcoming year. So I think he's in a great context for himself. So just I'll just sum it up here. Two other guys I think that have a chance. That one, I would have never imagined I would have said this on draft night. Let's go. The other guys we've mentioned, like I was always open to being wrong on Matas and Collier and just being a little bit lower on them.
Yeah. AJ
Johnson from the Bucks looked incredible last night when I watched a little bit of that game. He is, you want to talk about like Matas playing awkwardly. He is very funky. He's so young. He's all over the place, but he's goofy. He doesn't look like fully coordinated, but it works. Like he's just like really, he's still super young. He's very raw. He's going to be in the G League all next year. Doc will never play this guy. He won't play until year 3. It might take until year 3 that he could even be a rotation guard. But the way that he looked, maybe it's just a guy that's built for summer league because he's kind of a funky, athletic hooper. And he didn't play at all last year in Australia, as we said on draft night. And that's why I just didn't get it. I'm like, if he's not playing on his Australian team, how is he going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft? Like, that doesn't add up to me. But it might be a Peyton Watson situation where it's just like didn't get the opportunity. And I hope for Bucks fans that is the case because they have not drafted an NBA player in years. So it would be a huge hit for them to get a guy here at the end of the first. So what is very funny and might be possible is he might be awesome and then get buried behind Isaiah Thomas, who Shams just reported they were working out like 20 seconds ago. The Bucks are working out Isaiah Thomas. Like, so. What year is it? Yeah. What year is it? Isaiah Thomas is getting a workout from the Bucks? Yeah. Doc has way too much power. Yeah. Like, he was like, look, Horse, you can cook all offseason. Go get your Torian Princes, your Gary Trent Juniors, your DeLon Wrights, guys that are below 34 or however old. And I'm going to get, as long as I get as a treat, I get to bring in Isaiah Thomas to be our 15th man. Incredible. Does IT golf? We need to look into this. Is IT he might just golf? I'm sure him and Doc have a great relationship. Yeah. They just feel like they're two guys that never pass up on an opportunity. That's true. Grinders. Yeah. They know about grinding, man. Yeah. Like, I mean, when Doc heard about the news at the Trump rally on Saturday, he was probably like, all right, this is my opportunity. Rivers for president. Yeah. Quit the job. Doc stepping into the role. He could step in for either party with Biden having COVID or Trump being incapacitated. I'm going to be honest. Like, Doc would probably be like a top 6 president ever. Like, probably like yeah. Like you have no idea how bad American president. We've had so many bad American presidents. Yeah. Doc would be fine, like he'd get in there. He's really good at blaming other people, which he's better at blaming other people than Biden is. Biden always throws his staff under the bus and is bad at it. Doc, it's like fun and charming. He's got a little pop, a little pizzazz. Like, I mean, Doc's whole cabinet would be 50 and up. It would all be, there would be no one that even scratches being a young person. Yes. No new ideas. And look, would the deep state control the country? Yeah, well, it always has. Okay. Just the Supreme Court immediately flips back because he fills every vacancy with a 90-year-old. he won't play a young Supreme Court justice in the appointment. God damn it, Doc! It's 8-1! Son of a bitch! But the twist, they're all New Deal Democrats. And the Doc's the greatest president in history. He'd be awesome, dude. We need to get Doc on the staff, man. This is like, get Sorkin in the writer's room. West Wing reboot with Doc Rivers. Yeah, that would be incredible. It would be so good. We need a new season of the newsroom so badly. Just
Oh my god.
this is such a perfect time to have a new season of the newsroom.
They need to just do it for I guess what was Sports Night? You could kind of have the newsroom and Sports Night like cross together and have it be
Two
like
different Sorkin.
Yeah. You could have like Paul Dano playing Woj. Like it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be really good. You'd be kind of like the villain. It'd be awesome. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to kind of have that. Have that come back.
They asked Shams to see his screen time at Summer League. Uh-huh. Do you want to guess how many hours he had on his screen time when they asked him?
Is that like a running total of his life?
No, like the last few weeks, like because. Like what does his screen time look like during Summer League and like post draft?
Like per day? I'm gonna guess it's like legitimately like 18 hours per day.
21 hours.
Jeez. When does he sleep?
He sleeps for like he power naps.
That's crazy, man. Oh my
God. I mean, he is definitely gonna get some kind of eye cancer.
That's insane.
You can't look at a screen. I say this as someone who looks at a screen all the time.
Yeah.
You cannot look at a screen that long and not sleep. Like, at least I sleep, dude.
God,
yes, I look like Tom Hanks in Castaway, but
yeah, it looks like, dude. He like Kay Adams is flirting with him, and she looks like the Jessica Rabbit cartoon because he's like actively hallucinating. like he can't like, yeah, exactly. Like everyone, he's so tired. Everyone,
he's that cartoon where the eyeballs pop out and the gun in the head. This man is married, by the way. I do just want to point that out.
Shams is married?
Shams is married. That's why everyone's like, this bit is kind of weird with the Kay Adams thing. Shams is married. Like, when do you see your family?
Yeah, wait, what does that mean? If he's got 18 hours of screen time.
21 hours of screen time.
21 dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Maybe he FaceTimes with his wife a lot.
God, dude, like streamers don't do that. There are like streamers that don't do that. No. He's got more screen time than Kai Cenat. That's insane, man. Like I can't. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, we might be 34, but we know the streamers, dude.
Yeah,
I know like 4 of them. Aiden Ross, that's a person.
I'll take your word for it.
Flight.
Okay, Flight? There we go. I know all the Apex Legends streamers. Like it's Timmy, and those are my guys. So
there's other ones too. Anyway,
we've got them all. We know them all, folks.
All right, so just to get through that, by the way, my last guy that I want to shout out here that I think has a chance, an outside chance, probably not the best player in the draft, but one of the best players in the draft. I'm still going strong for Jalen Tyson. He's looked awesome in Summer League, and the Cavs team has been very up and down, but he's been kind of one of the lone bright spots for that Cavs summer team. So yeah, the 3 guys I had listed down that I was lower on, or 4 guys that I was lower on that have impressed me are Matas Buzelis, Isaiah Collier, AJ Johnson, and your guy Tristan Da Silva has been really good too. I mean, he's 23. I expect him to be good.
He better be. Yeah, it'd be bad if he wasn't.
But I think he's going to be an instant rotation player, and I think that's something that I was just a little bit more skeptical of, just because I didn't know if he was going to be quite as athletic to be a plug and play guy, and he's been really good in Summer League. So that might have been a W for you.
We'll see. I'm sticking to my prediction that he has a better career than Cody Williams. So we'll see what happens.
Cody Williams, after I had that whole thing about him being a bust, because I was like, this guy is just he just disappears. He's hard. He missed like 15 shots. He went 9 of 14 the next game and scored like 27 points or something crazy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. The podcasters boost, baby.
First, yeah. All right. Yeah. So I have a list real quick I want to go through here of it's Jover for these guys. Okay, you ready? These are guys that are in their 2nd or 3rd year at Summer League, and I think their careers are effectively over.
Okay.
Because they don't look good, and it's year 2 or 3. Derek Whitehead, really sad story.
Yeah, it's
just injuries. He's done. Like, he'll get a chance at the next year because the Nets are just dumb. Like, are going to be tanking, and he might play a little bit, but it's been brutal. And it's just unfortunate that he he'll just like he can't, he's not as athletic as he used to be. He can shoot, but he hasn't shot and made any shots in summer league. I think it's over for him. So Marjon Beauchamp turns 24 soon, has looked very bad in summer league, and is just, I think that's another miss for the Bucks front office in terms of drafting. He's 24 in October, and also I do just want to point out my prediction. I think they don't pick up his team option for next year, and I think he gets salary dumped, because right now he makes like $2 million. He makes $4 million the following year, and they're deep into the tax. I can't imagine that they're going to pick up that option. I think they're just going to they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to not pick up his option and just let him go to free agency next year, like Furkan Korkmaz. I don't know if you remember the Furkan Korkmaz thing, but the Sixers denied his option, and then he balled out the next year. Like, he had his best year of his career the following year because the Sixers were so desperate for shooting. And then he came back, he signed a veterans minimum, and then the next year played even better, had by far the best year of his career, and the Sixers signed him to like a 5-year, $15 million deal. But I think that's the best case scenario for Marjon at this point. Like, Marjon's 24. I think he probably gets salary dumped at the deadline just to save money on the tax with seconds.
Also, like, Furkan was like 16 when he was drafted.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. I think Furkan was 21 or 22 when he had that season. And part of the reason why they didn't pick up his option was because they were like, we just don't know if he's an NBA player. He turned out to be at least a guy for a few years. Marjon is 2 years older than Furkan was and it's not looking great for him. Kobe Brown from the Clippers, their first round pick last year. He's already 24. He's looked terrible in summer league. It's Jover. Ochai Agbaji. He's actually, I think his numbers look pretty decent when I looked at them, but it's year 3. He's 24. I think he's almost 25, if I remember correctly. It's not looking good for Ochai Agbaji. Patrick Baldwin Jr., been done. He's over. Jalen Pickett.
Can I say something about Patrick Baldwin Jr.? One of my favorite things was Warriors fans. I would just see Warriors fans talking to each other, and they kept saying like PB and J. Yeah. And I was like, I'm like, who the fuck are they talking about? They like forgot such a non-guy. Yeah. But like they would like have it's like, we've got Kuminga, we've got Moody, we've got PBJ. Like, the future's pretty bright. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Who is
I think
PBJ?
It was pretty telling that we think that this new front office is pretty smart for the Warriors, and their first move was instantly just to throw his salary into a deal to get rid of him.
Yeah, what they traded him
after his rookie year. Yeah.
I
think he got cut by the Wizards too, if I remember correctly. I don't even think he's on the Wizards. He's just not athletic enough. Like,
I'm gonna start calling the Warriors front office the Gracie Abrams front office, because it's like there's nepotism, but they're good.
Yeah, so, good. The strokes of the NBA.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like, look, Julian Casablanca's dad. Yes, he ran Wilhelmina, but also he can sing, dude. He's a really good singer.
Gracie Abrams, she's a great singer. Did her dad make some bad Star Trek movies? Yes, but it's fine.
She's got the juice.
She's dating Paul Mescal. Like,
wow,
that's juice.
Yeah, the Phoebe Bridgers trajectory.
It really is.
So
like, honestly,
well, next she's going to join a polycule with Bo Burnham and Phoebe Bridgers, so I'm excited for her.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So Johnny Davis, it's been over. I just need to bring him up again.
She's going to join a band called Girl Dumbass. Okay, continue. All right.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Johnny Davis, it's been over, but
oh my God.
I just want to point out how many guys from the 2022 draft are already like Marjon, Ochai, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Johnny Davis, AJ Griffin. It's AJ Griffin's, I don't know if it's his brain or his body or what, but he's looked not good in summer league. And look, he's 21. He might have a chance just because he's big and he can shoot. But like, I can't believe that how we were talking about AJ Griffin after his rookie year to where he is now. It is shocking to see the fall in such a short amount of time for a guy that I was like, oh, this guy's at a minimum a 10-year NBA player. He's 6'6" and he can shoot the shit out of the ball. Like, and he's like fairly athletic. Like, those guys just hang around, and he just seems kind of done.
It's kind of crazy how the 2022 NBA draft is like one of the most extreme drafts, where it's like, because I was like, man, that draft kind of sucks, doesn't it? And you go through and there's like J-Dub.
The top of the draft is it has a lot of talent.
Well, there's Nemhard. There's like a lot of guys who are really good, but it's just like everyone either sucks or is like pretty good. Like there's not a lot of there's not a lot of like Benedict Mathurin. Like Benedict Mathurin is one of the only guys who's like, yeah, he's normal for like
just like a rotation guy.
Yeah. There's not a lot of just rotation guys. There's a lot of like either busts or like, oh fuck,
awesome,
pretty good pick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have two more guys from that class. Wendell Moore, who apparently had a pretty good game with the Pistons. I think it's over for Wendell Moore. Usman Jang. Yeah, I know he looked fine that's what the OKC fan said. Like, he looked fine, but like he's got to look better than fine at this point. If you're in year 3,
especially if you play for the fucking Thunder, dude, there's like 13 guys who are better than you, and they're gonna keep drafting guys who are better than you. Like,
the only thing I want to say with Usman Jang and AJ Griffin is that they're younger than almost everyone on this list. And most of these guys are like 24. And like, if you're not good in summer league at 24, I can't even imagine how you could have an NBA career at that point. So I have my next.
It's funny that they got like they traded more for Jang than they did for like fucking Alex Caruso.
Yeah, no, I mean, they traded 2 of the first that they traded were like kind of Mickey first. One was a Wizards pick that was like heavily protected that was traded in the Russell Westbrook Bradley or John Wall deal that Houston traded them for Şengün in 2021 draft night. And then they flipped that in that trade to the Knicks. I think the Knicks still have that first, if I remember correctly. I don't think they traded that Washington first, but it's going to eventually expire because it just had protections and then it turns into seconds. So, and then the last 2 guys I had on here are the Nuggets guys, Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett. I know it's only year 2. They're 24, especially for Jalen Pickett. He's looked terrible in summer league. It's done. So I have my next tier I have here is starting to be concerned. Taylor Hendricks hasn't looked that great. He's only going into year 2. He's still 20. Give it time, but not as good as you would expect from a guy who was a top 10 pick a year ago. Omax Prosper, I was never high on him, but Omax, like, I don't know. He just hasn't stood out at all. He's been like fine at summer league. Once again, 21, 22. He's, he might be a guy that needs to like a structure and a defined role, but yeah, he hasn't been great at summer league. Chris Murray, another guy that has kind of struggled a little bit, and he's older, 24. I was never high on him either, and then honestly, oh, there we go. Hendricks went 9 of 10 today. The curse is back, baby.
Let's go.
Anytime I talk about a Utah Jazz player, they instantly play incredibly well. Last time it was Cody Williams that he played out of his mind the next game. This time it's Taylor Hendricks. So maybe Taylor Hendricks is back, baby. And then the last one I had here, I can't believe I'm saying this. Marcus Sasser has been really bad in summer league, which is weird because I thought he was good, very good for a rookie guard. Yeah. So just something to keep an eye on with the Pistons, especially now that they need more shooting. And then the second year guys who look ready to play instantly, Jarris Walker, Grady Dick, and Jordan Miller from the Clippers. He's going to win I think he's going to win Summer League MVP. He's averaging like 25 points a game. He's a guy. Kobe Brown is not. Jordan Miller, I barely even know anything about Jordan Miller, but he's been balling out in Summer League. So finally the Clippers might have something to look forward. The Clippers and the Bucks this Summer League is like probably the most excited that they've been about a young player in like 6 years.
Yeah.
They just don't ever draft good young players. So they at least have a chance with Jordan Miller and AJ Johnson to be a chance. So to be guys in the NBA. So let's just go over, let's do a quick slop roundup of what's happened around the NBA since we last spoke. The Bucks signed Gary Trent Jr. Thoughts?
Great pickup. Great for the price. We talked about this a little bit on Chuck's podcast last night. Everyone go check out Checking Darts. But like they did the Mavericks offseason from like last year where it's like I felt like they were really stuck and really hampered, and like they're obviously in a bad spot. But given just this offseason, they've kind of killed it. They've kind of done the best possible you can do with it. I think Gary Trent should be making I think he's like a $6 to $10 million player in the league. So like getting him on a veterans minimum is like pretty good. Like I think he can still be a rotation player in the NBA. So I think he's probably better than like Malik Beasley was last year.
I think he's a little bit better. I think that the thing is, I think that in the context of the Bucks, he's going to be awesome. He made 50% of his unguarded catch and shoot threes last year.
That's what I'm saying. He's a great catch and shoot guy. I know he's a little overrated on defense, but he's like better than Malik Beasley, and he's like got a little bit of size.
He can make plays on defense, which Beasley can't do that. Like he can get steals. That's at a minimum. He really only has had like one good season as a defender in the NBA. You're hoping that he can unlock something playing in a smaller role where he's not tasked with any shot creation or in a lesser scoring punch. He's going to be a fifth guy in most of their lineups. Like they have Giannis, they have Dame, they have Chris Middleton, who by the way had 2 ankle surgeries this offseason. I don't know if you saw that on both ankles. He had surgery. So that's the thing that I'm really worried about if I'm the Bucks, is that Middleton had multiple surgeries again. And he's a guy who's struggled to stay healthy the last 2 years. So that's really the tough part for them. But in terms of, from the veterans minimum, it's like, I mean,
one of the best veterans minimum signings like in recent memory.
They benefited from, weirdly enough, they got screwed by the CBA because of the second apron rule, so they can't make any moves. But they benefited from some like tax MLE guys like DeLon Wright, Taurean Prince, and Gary Trent Jr. becoming veterans minimum guys. I think it's I think they're going to be better next year. I don't think it's like tangibly better because I really only think DeLon Wright is the only guy that is like probably going to be able to stay on the court in the playoffs. We'll see with Gary Trent Jr. Maybe if the defense is better.
Yeah, I think certain matchups Gary Trent will be okay. Yeah, like I think he'll struggle against like the Celtics, but like other matchups. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Other matchups that are a little bit more like I think he might be like okay in some of those teams that are like a little bit smaller on the edges. Like the Knicks don't have like a ton of size; they just rebound the shit out of the ball. You know what I'm saying? I think he could like survive because they're not like hyper physical. So
But as Dre points out in the comments here, I said this before, but I said before free agency started, all the MLE money is going to go to the two-way versatile athlete wings. Caleb Martin, Najee Marshall, Derek Jones Jr. No one got a full MLE deal except for DeAnthony Melton, by the way, this offseason, and he only got a 1-year prove-it deal. So that's kind of incredible. I know that MLEs haven't really been used all that often the last few years, but to have literally one of them be fully used was interesting to see. And then, if you look at the guys who are the shooter types, the Luke Kennard still hasn't signed. He'll probably get a veterans minimum. Gary Trent Jr., shooter. Malik Beasley got $6 million, but he had to go to the Pistons to get it. Like, the shooters are just, the league has caught up to the shooting scorer type guys, where everyone, to stay on the court for teams, you have to be able to shoot a little bit. You have to be able to score a little bit. And if that is the case, then the guys who are the more unitasker type players, like the guys we just described, are going to kind of fall out a little bit. Yeah. So I'm interested to see kind of if that trend continues the next few years, because Buddy's really the only one that got like a decent payday and went to like a decent team with the Warriors on that sign and trade. Everyone else kind of like the league has gotten a little bit smarter. Like the league has kind of realized, like, in order to stay on the court in the playoffs, you need to be good on both ends. And all these guys who are just defensive liabilities that really only can shoot are just kind of getting squeezed by this new CBA. So I like the move for the Bucks. I know Bucks fans hate me because I'm not praising John Horst for being a god like they seem to think he is. Draft an NBA player for one time in 6 years, and I'll give you credit. Like, all of this is great. The thing that I think Horst does better than like Calvin Booth or some of the GMs that they draft poorly, he at least takes swings on guys as like reclamation projects, or like that buys at the low cost. Like he traded Sam Merrill years ago for Grayson Allen. He signed Bobby Portis in free agency. Brooke Lopez was like a taxpayer MLE deal. and then he turned into to be absolutely great for them.
That was a scam at the time, though. Everyone
it
was like, "What the fuck?"
No, it was.
Yeah.
But Pat Connaughton was the next guy I was going to bring up. They got him as a second draft guy. Turned out to be a rotation player for them. At a minimum, Horst is good at identifying what they can get on the margins and who they can bring in. Dallas is another team that does a good job with this. They did a good job with it this offseason, getting like Quentin Grimes when they've missed out on the chance to get like KCP. So I think that strategy, if you're bad at drafting, don't do the thing where you just fucking turn around and you pay Reggie Jackson and Dario Saric, the taxpayer mid-level, and give them a second-year option on it. Like, the Dario Saric signing is one of the worst signings you just did this last year, Calvin Booth. And then you had to salary dump him with multiple seconds to the Hornets. Like, I know where this is headed. And Saric isn't a bad player, but like, he can't play with Jokic. He can't. He's a 5. He doesn't play the 4 in like 5 years. It drives me insane that they did that. But anyway, so yeah, the last thing I what else is there to say about Lauri Markkanen? Like,
not much.
Like, Danny Ainge is probably not going to trade him. And if he does, it's going to be whoever does that trade is stupid. That's where I've landed. You're going to get fucking fleeced if you trade for Lauri Markkanen, expiring contract Lauri Markkanen at this point of his career. Like, I know he's really good and he's a great fit on a lot of teams, but if Danny wants fucking Brandon Podziemski and like 4 firsts and 3 swaps, just move on. Find a different target. Go get Cam Johnson if you're the Warriors. Go get someone else. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me to overpay for a guy who, you know, is very good, but like, he's not, unless you're, honestly, there's like a very few teams. I think OKC and the Sixers were the 2 teams that if they were able to make a play for him, he would have lifted their ceiling higher. But like, he's not taking the Warriors from play-in team to championship contender. I think that would be a massive mistake. And I also think the Jazz might fuck this up. Like, I think the Jazz might miss their opportunity to kind of sell high on a very good but not amazing top 20 player in the league. So yeah. Anyway, I just
honestly, I haven't bought into any of those rumors anyway, because I just don't think Danny Ainge is fucking trading Lauri Markkanen. Like, I just don't believe that that's happening. Like, we haven't seen anything like that. He's a pervert. Like, and I think, honestly, I think everyone's sick of dealing with him, to be totally honest. Like, it does kind of seem like him and Pat Riley, they're kind of over their shit. It's like, get out of the way, old man. They're kind of catching some of the election cycle shit, where it's like, Pat Riley, you must step down. Yeah. Pat Riley, you must step down. No, I'm going to antagonize Jimmy Butler. Call him weak. Yeah.
Why did Joe Biden just tweet, "I'm sick"?
He followed it up with, it's a joke, of Elon Musk and other people manipulating the election. Like, it's the staffers trying to be.
He's not. He doesn't have COVID.
No, he does have COVID, but they're doing an epic mealtime bit with the "I'm sick" thing. So he does have COVID. Like, he's straight up, and he's also not masking for some reason. So.
It's 2024. We don't mask anymore. We're on Chad energy now.
It's pretty awesome.
I'm just kidding. If you have COVID, wear a mask. Also, don't go outside. Stay home. But last thing that we'll cover here, because I'm just sick of the Lauri market and the Warriors, whatever. There was more shit about that, but I don't believe any of it. Just run it back for the Warriors, or go get Cam Johnson for a 1st round pick and Moses Moody or something. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk on here was the Jalen Brunson extension, because we didn't get a chance to talk about that. Why is Jalen Brunson so selfish and not thinking about the superstar class of the NBA and what this will do for labor negotiations?
I unironically think, I don't know, I don't totally understand what this is, because there's a lot of Knicks fans saying, well, it's actually better for his money because you can get the 10-year max at some of those things. But there's a couple of things there. So Will and I were DMing about this. You can also just take a 3-year extension. You can have options on your deal. So you could just take a 3-year extension and like renegotiate it. You don't need to do this. A, B, he's a small guard who's made All NBA once. This is Isaiah Thomas is rolling over in his Bucks tryout gear right now. Like, get the bag, dude. They're not going to take care of you.
But isn't the argument if you want to make the Isaiah Thomas case, isn't the argument that you would be better off doing it now than waiting a year? What if he gets injured next year?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying for him. He should take just the max. Like,
he did.
Take the max.
His max is bigger a year from now.
Yes.
So like, if that is the
case, not extending off of his scam contract, because that's the thing is he's extending off of a smaller than max deal. Like,
he took $100 million less, but also doesn't have the risk of, like, if he gets hurt this year, not getting paid a year from now. Is the argument that people are making?
Yeah, and also like it's not. He doesn't really make the money back. Like, it's assuming that there's a lot of things going on. You can also, there's so many options. You can just do the 1+1 shit that KD like did, like some of these other players have done. There was a lot of obfuscation about why this was a good idea, and it just kind of feels to me like the Knicks were kind of, they have a way to launder money because Jalen Brunson's dad is literally on the team. There's like, it's a really weird situation, and I think it's like agent malpractice to allow your guy to do that. Like, to be totally honest, like, because it's like, I don't know. I don't want Jalen Brunson to get hurt. He's a small guard though. He's going to be 30. I don't think he's getting a 5-year max. 5-year, $10. It's going to be like $70 million a year.
So I was going to say, you're talking about the 10 when he hits his 10-year mark and he can extend in 3 years from now.
Yeah.
So I agree. And he's about to turn 28. He'll be 31 when he's up for that extension. And, historically, small guards have not aged particularly well. There's really only been, I talked about this. I think the only max I could think of for a small guard that aged well was Chris Paul in his 30s. Is that right? Like the Dame deal?
Yeah.
Oh, Steph. It's just Steph and Chris Paul. Mm-hmm. Other than that, it's, I guess Steve Nash too. So there's a few examples. And the argument that you could make if you are Jalen Brunson and his camp is that he's gotten better into his late 20s. Historically speaking, if guys pop in their late 20s, they tend to be pretty good until they're like 35. So maybe he can get that extra bag 2 or 3 years from now. And if this turns out to be worth it, but I don't think it's a guarantee in a way that people are talking about it right now. Because like you said, in a few years, that's $80 million a year for 31-year-old Jalen Brunson. Like, I think that pitch is what is false about this.
Yes.
I don't blame him for getting his money a year early on the off chance that he could have a devastating injury similar to what Isaiah Thomas did and lose out on a bunch of money. I also don't know why it's being pitched like he's some sort of like hero for giving up money when his contract is still incredibly large. Like, we've talked about this with money before. At a certain point when you make a lot of money, the numbers just don't mean anything anymore. Like, he signed this massive extension and it's going to help the Knicks for sure. But like, I'm wondering if you think any differently about their offseason now that he signed this contract, because do you think that was kind of 1-in-1 with the Mikal Bridges deal?
Maybe. I think it helps. It helps them be more sustainable. Like, I think it's less likely that they're going to have to do something like trade Josh Hart. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be able to keep their team together better because he's just getting scammed. He's the guy getting scammed. Like, so, like, you need a guy who's getting scammed on your team, like, to be good. Like the Celtics. That's why the Celtics are going to Drew Holiday in a year next year. Like the Celtics as currently constructed are only around for 1 more year. One of those guys is going to be gone unless, like, we've got Saudi ownership or Emirati ownership. Like, that's the only way the Celtics are going to be together, like, next year. So the teams like that, having a guy who's getting scammed, like Derek White was, like Porzingis was last year, those guys are important, but I still think the Knicks have the same problem where they don't have high variance. They made a floor-raising move to make them like the worst case scenario for the next year. I think is like 48 wins. Like I don't see a scenario where the Knicks lose like they're gonna win 50 games almost regardless of any injuries. Like Jalen Brunson could be out for the season, and I feel like they would still win 48 games. Like, but they just don't have the high variance for like the playoffs. Like we saw how fucking bad Jason Tatum looked as like the best player, quote unquote, on a championship team, and the Celtics needed all the Mickey Mouse luck they could get, and literally like the best team that's ever been around a top guy to win the title. And I'm sorry, Jason Tatum's better than Jalen Brown. Like maybe Jalen Brunson. Maybe Jalen Brunson had a better season last year. You can convince me of that. He's not a better player than Jason Tatum. Like, so it still doesn't change how I feel about them long term, but it does give them options to keep their team together at the very least.
It also makes it more likely that they can make the trade for Karl Anthony Towns, as I've been saying.
We'll see. Yeah, that's the thing.
They can bring on a huge contract like that because Jalen Brunson is making less than $40 million a year on this contract. He's making $39 million, which sounds like a lot of money, and you're like, well, that's still, and it is like I said, at a certain point, this shit doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like this shit just doesn't matter. Like you hit a ceiling with how much money you make, but if this is the case, and he is to make, $40 million a year, when he could wait and make $55-60 million a year from now. That is a big difference for, like you said, keeping the team together and then maybe making one more potential move for a max guy or a super max guy. Because I don't think the team's going to want to go in super deep into the tax. It's beneficial for that. And who better to save money for than a great guy like James Dolan, who's basically calling the NBA a communist organization right now that is designed to fuck him over and him only.
He should, if that's true, he should sell the Knicks and buy one of the small teams.
Yeah.
With the profit, you'd probably pocket like $5 billion.
Yeah, he should, honestly.
Yeah.
He should just sell the Knicks and buy the Pelicans.
Yeah, if it's such a big problem, you're getting free money, man. Like, and you'll make $5 billion in revenue difference. If it costs so much money to own the Knicks and you don't get any value on that, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Love it. This works.
Losers, dude. Like, I'm sorry, God, they're just the whiniest bitches every fucking time. It's like, oh my God, cry me a fucking river. God damn, dude. Owner, like,
James Dolan,
babies, dude.
You're Jesus. 69 years old. Nice. You're gonna die soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry about this. You're gonna be dead in a few years, so don't worry about it. You are literally a billionaire who has some dystopian fucking futuristic face detection set up.
You're throwing the lawyers out like they're a Tom and Jerry cartoon out of fucking Disney on Ice, going there with their kids because they were mean to you in a law thing. You're a cartoon villain.
He's literally built the sphere in Vegas and now he's building one in Saudi Arabia, as Burns points out in the comments.
That's like a you're literally building a scenario where James Bond gets in a shootout at the end of a Daniel Craig movie. Like you are a supervillain.
It costs $2 billion to make those fucking spheres, and you're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you're getting fucked, buddy.
You have the greatest criminal organization in the world at your fingertips in Cablevision and the New York monopoly that is there. So I don't know. He stinks, man. He's so bad.
Anyway. I can't say too much. I'll be in New York next week, so I can't say.
Yeah.
I can't say
you're getting added.
I have to go through Penn Station.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Amtrak in, so I might get sniped the second that I get out of Penn Station.
Trill is wearing. You're wearing the mask from the Laszlo Soot mask from hit movie Smokin' Aces. Everyone.
Definitely know that reference. So thank you for saying it.
That's a great Jeremy Piven vehicle.
Well, we love Jeremy Piven. Oh yeah, we love Jeremy Piven at YKB. Millennial TV reference close enough. I made it Entourage noise. We got our millennial TV reference in.
Ben Affleck's also in it, but he dies like in like the 4th scene. It's like definitely one of those like was only on set for one day. Like we only got Ben Affleck for one day, so
right, make the most of it type shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but Jeremy Piven's like the main guy. Yeah, Common is in it. Yeah, that's right. Really,
what an elite cast. Yeah, I have to see this film.
It's really fun. It's like, what if Snatch was bad?
That honestly sounds like the perfect movie to me. I love bad movies. I've been watching bad movies recently, and we watched Twilight. We watched the whole Twilight series.
Yeah.
By the way, watch 50 Shades of Grey for the first time. The most boring movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, what is this? We were just in tears. We were so bored by that movie. There are 2 characters in the whole film.
It sucks. It's
so bad.
It's not Twilight where they're have
that
people
movie
doing
rules.
Cartoon like.
Yes.
I had a coworker told me like literally 2 days ago that she's like literally my age and she's like she'd never seen Twilight. I'm like, you're insane.
You're missing out.
Is it good? And I'm like, oh no, it's terrible.
It's the worst movie ever, but I love it.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, question for you: we have, are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? I'm being asked in the comments as well.
Well, speaking of age gap discourse, we're being
spoiler for the last film.
Yeah, spoiler for the last movie. But I think
I can't say I'm Team Jacob.
Both of them are age gaps. I realized. Like,
fuck, I forgot because he's a vampire.
Yeah,
right?
He's like an old vampire.
Yeah,
yeah. It's age gap the movie. I guess the one that feels less creepy is when
Team Edward.
Is Edward.
I know now. I sound like I'm supporting Josh Giddey and Drake. If I say
right. Yeah. I gotta say I stand Edward just on the back of Robert Pattinson is my favorite celebrity because like when the Twilight movies were coming out, I posted about this on Twitter the other day. He had a stalker in Spain. It was like really scary and was like following him around. And the way he got rid of the stalker was he brought her out to dinner on a date.
He was so boring.
And he sucked so bad. She just
so depressed.
She laughed. She never came back. That's so real, dude. He's so real for that. He fucking rocks.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to get rid of a stalker. Just be the most boring, sad person alive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, a masterclass from Margaret Robert Pattinson.
I gotta push back on somebody saying Troopers is a best terrible movie. I mean, it's a satire, so like it's actually a very good movie. Like the movies we're talking about are not satires.
No, they are not. I do think that by the end of the Twilight series, they become more self-aware of how bad they are. Like they lean into the bit more, but they're not self-aware from the beginning.
They're not satire, but they're camp. I would
say.
Very
camp. Yeah, I would describe it that way. Yeah. By the way, I just want to point out the lead actor. The acting in all of these movies is bad, but it's a charming kind of bad.
Yes.
The lead actor in 50 Shades of Grey is the worst actor I've ever seen in any film
I don't
ever.
think he's been famous since that movie.
He was so bad in that movie that I was like, how do they let him into movies? Like, how is he an actor? He is the most lifeless, boring person I've ever seen in any movie. It made the movie completely unbearable to watch.
Would you believe, I'm at his IMDb right now, that he's known for The Fall and then 50 Shades of Grey, obviously.
Yeah.
And then his third credit is Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which is an animated film from 2021.
That's appropriate, I would say.
No, it's not. Wait, hold on. It's not an animated film. What the fuck? It's like a weird Kristen Wiig. Anyway, this guy, Jamie Dornan, was like never famous again. So funny.
I mean, it's on merit. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
That guy was brutal in the movie. I was like, I'm usually pretty like liberal. I don't really care about like acting. Like it doesn't have to, no one has to be perfect, like whatever. I was just astonished that a movie that had like probably like a $50 million budget was like, we're gonna cast this guy as the lead who's supposed to be like a mysterious, sexy, like whatever, and he's just the most lifeless human that's ever been on a movie screen. It's incredible. But anyway, that's it's off-season hours, so that's our movie minute for you at the end of this episode. So
we should do later in this off season when it's slow, we should do a advice episode where we collect advice from the, if you want advice from a single guy who's currently
We'll get
living
it from
in
the
an empty
Patreon
house.
subscribers. Sign up for the Patreon.
Sign up for the Patreon, and you
There
can
you go.
ask a 34-year-old man living in an empty house while he waits for his apartment check to clear for life advice. So
yeah, I mean, no one would ever ask a man who's single, living on his own, for life advice on a major sports podcast.
yes, that's true. I will say Russillo does. I credit to Russillo. He does make substantially more money than me. So
a little bit. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We're catching up. I've got what? How much older is Russillo than me? 12 years.
20?
Yeah,
12.
12.
He's really only in his late 40s.
Is he in his late 40s? I assume he's in his late 40s. Is he in his 50s?
Yeah, I think you're right, because 2003 he hit
48. So I've got 14 years to catch up.
We'll get there. We'll get that. We'll get that. We'll each get beach houses in Manhattan Beach and a boat.
Yeah.
And then so we could go watch Charlotte Hornets games out at sea.
Dude, he's so real for that though. Like I would do that but instead of watching Charlotte Hornets games, I would play Elden Ring or something like that. So I kind of get it, like a little bit.
Absolute king.
Yeah, swag.
All right.
You know who wouldn't do that? Him Bontemps.
It's true. That's why, but he's the god. He's the god.
He's the god, the king. I'll never forget. I think I said on the podcast before. Last thing before we get out of here, that the one time I said, Tim Bontemps in the streets, give me a good time in the sheets,
and his wife liked it.
And his wife liked it.
Yeah,
no interaction, not following me. She doesn't have very many likes besides that one. So just confirmed. Tim Bontemps, demon in the sack, like. Our guy, like
absolute goat.
That's
dude.
The coolest thing that's ever happened to me. I was like,
honestly, as I've sat on the Sixers offseason for longer, I am a little bit worried that they're going to have to make like one or two trades in season to kind of fill in some of the flaws. But the fact that Tim Bontemps was sitting between Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse, I was sent a photo in the Discord from one of the hogs that was live on scene at Summer League. And Daryl Morey was sitting on one side, Nick Nurse was sitting on the other, and directly in the middle of them was Tim Bontemps. Makes me feel so good about their chances next year. If you get the Tim Bontemps stamp of approval, the Celtics finally got it this year, and then they won the championship.
Yep.
2 years ago, the Nuggets got it; they won the championships.
Yep.
If we get the Tim Bontemps stamp of approval, we're really cooking, because he's been like, I think this team's really good, but I don't trust them in the playoffs. I hope that Paul George doesn't shit on himself, but we'll see. We'll see. All my predictions will be based on Tim Bontemps' opinions for this upcoming season. I just want you to know that right now. It's going to be the meme where I'm Socrates copying my neighbor, and it is Tim Bontemps. Tim Bontemps is Socrates. Anyway, I've always said he's a Socrates type. But anyway,
exactly. I'd like to be his Plato. All right.